Dr. Jitendra Singh.
Thank you, Chairman, sir, for giving me this opportunity. I have been keenly listening to all these speakers, Mr. Jairam Ramesh, Mr. Prasad, Mr. Sandeep Pathak, and Shivaji. Mr. Jairam Ramesh is quite well versed with the subject. We respect him for his studiousness. He has tried to also place some of the facts before the House, and in between try to also talk politics and science, which I shall respond in the course of few minutes, not in very big philosophical platitudes as he did, but in statistical data. Because as students of science, we are taught to speak with facts, figures, and evidence. But before I do that, and leave some thought for him to go home and ponder about, I seek your kind indulgence. प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के नेतृत्व की सरकार के मर्यादा के अनुकूल आपकी यदि अनुमति हो तो गैलरी में बैठे एक हमारे सज्जन हैं, वो अगर खड़े होकर के अपना चेहरा दिखाएंगे सदस्यों को तो अच्छा लगेगा. मिस्टर वीरा मुथु वेल, द प्रोजेक्ट डायरेक्टर ऑफ चंद्रयान, लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन. You have celebrated Chandrayaan, you have seen Chandrayaan, you have sung Chandrayaan, but this is the culture under the government headed by Prime Minister Modi. With all the patronage and support from all the quarters in the government, this team works in anonymity. And if there was an iota of politics, it would not have been so. It would have been otherwise. He is not a dynast. He is not there by virtue of being a member of any family. He is there and he doesn't even boast to be there. And his appointment was made by the present government to oversee Chandrayaan 3, the series of which started with Chandrayaan 1, the clearance of which was given by then Prime Minister Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and the third of series happening under Prime Minister Modi. Now, before I go to I'll give you full statistics, enough food for thought, but I will not create an unpleasant taste for the House. So let's first celebrate what it is. I think we are first here to celebrate the science and the scientists. If you go back and see the pictures in the archives, Sarabhai carrying launcher vehicle on the bicycle carriage. Who was the Prime Minister at that time? Which was the government at that time? सभापति जी, हमारे वैज्ञानिकों में कभी प्रतिभा की कमी ना थी, योग्यता की कमी ना थी, निष्ठा भी थी, मेहनत करने का जज्बा भी था, आंखों में सपने भी थे, और कुछ ना होते हुए भी कर गुजरने का साहस था. लेकिन अभाव था अनुकूलता का, और वो अभाव अब पूरा हुआ. ये ठीक कहा गया. अब ये जो आंकड़े बताए गए, दिस इज पार्ट ऑफ द हिस्ट्री. आई डोंट थिंक वी हैव टू रिपीट इट. एवरीबडी इज फेमिलियर. You don't even need a Crorepati question for this. Everybody knows it started in 1962. It began in 1969. You had the ISRO. All that has been given. What is important is that when we started our program in the early and mid-60s, on the one hand, you had Sarabhai, devoid of transport, and on the other hand, you had Soviet Union and United States preparing to land a human being on the surface of moon. So that was the gap, that was the difference and the distance between the two. And still, this group of young scientists had that courage. Now, what has happened which has led to this quantum leap? Something might have happened. कोई जादू की छड़ी आ गई। हमारे मित्र कह रहे थे कि वैज्ञानिकों को पैसा नहीं दिया जाता, प्रोत्साहन नहीं दिया जाता। उसकी भी मैं बात करूंगा एक एक करके। शायद कुछ एक हाल ही के दस्तावेजों से वो परिचित नहीं है। कुछ तो ऐसा हुआ होगा that we started meeting success now and not then. 3 generations later. इन्होंने कहा कि this is not a military program. ठीक कहा जयराम जी ने, and he complimented for not making it a military program. The question then is, if it was not a military program, then why were the civilians debarred from entering into the premises of Sriharikota and this? You had regimented it. It is for the first time that the gates of Sriharikota have been unlocked in 2020. Who was the Prime Minister at that time? I am not going to say. Because this debate is not around Prime Ministers. Unfortunately, it has been sought to be. No, you made it. You made it a Nehruvian debate. I don't want to go into Nehruvian blunders. I am not going into that at all, because I said, with all honesty, we'll talk in facts, figures, on the basis of evidence. We don't even need to name the Prime Minister. I am not naming anybody. But this happened only in 2020. At the time of launching of Chandrayaan, Chairman Sir, there were thousand media persons right at the site watching it with their naked eye. Somebody tweeted from that side, I don't know whether it was Jairam ji himself, कि what is the difference, क्या बड़ा हो गया. I was that time at that side. The landing had just happened 10 minutes earlier, and the media person confronted me. What do you say? ये आया उनका, वो भी विद्वान है. वो कह रहे हैं कि क्या फर्क पड़ा जो इतना शोर हो रहा है. I asked him, when did you come here last? He said, sir, first time. I said, that is the difference. No, this will tell you. अब बात तो आगे चलेगी. तो ये ट्वीट करने का क्या मतलब था? सुनिए बात को. We'll have to. Now the point is, the common man was debarred from even peeping inside the gates. This will address all that is being said. Now they are saying why they were kept away. You had kept the Space Department behind a veil of secrecy. You had regimented it. You had disallowed it to be synergized with all these stakeholders. You had disallowed to the industry to indulge in this. And that is why the progress got halted. It took us 75 years to reach where we have reached. And that has happened after the quantum leap of the last few years. What has happened? Before 2014, there were 4 startups in space, 4. It is embarrassing to say. Between 2020 and today, there are 150 startups. Earlier ones have already turned into entrepreneurs, like Skyroot and others. I'll come to, one of our friends spoke about the science at large, that also I'll come, but let's first celebrate what we are doing. Then it was said, engineering colleges, government engineering colleges, women colleges, this is what Sri Jairam ji was saying. And he was saying, why you celebrate 5 IITs only? Thank God we celebrate. These were created by Nehru. But we have never said that our scientists are only from IITs. Even today, the gentleman I have introduced is not from IIT. None of them. And we have also celebrated women scientists, while Mr. Veera Muthul is the project director, the joint director is Kalpana. And of course, for Aditya, as T. Shivaji rightly mentioned, Nijar Sharji from Tamil Nadu. Now you have narrated entire history because you think you are addressing a house which hardly reads science, hardly reads space. So you score 1962, this happened, 1969, Sarabhai died. We know all those details. Sarabhai, I can give you even further details, how he died and what happened. He died from a myocardial infarction. There was a conference in the night, he didn't wake up in the morning. Then Satish Dhawan. No, you have spoken. You have spoken. You have spoken. I'm not yielding. What I'm trying to say is, you are trying to narrate a chronology. You are trying to narrate a chronology simply to summarize the facts. I'm coming to that.
Never from the seat like this.
I didn't interrupt.
Please, no, I don't give you floor.
No, I'm not yielding and I didn't
Please
interrupt.
take your seat. Please continue. No. Don't come in defense of Jairam. Jairam is nothing will go on record. Jairam is competent to defend himself.
I am narrating
and if
all.
there will be an occasion,
I am
I'll give
narrating
opportunity.
both what the past governments did as well as this government does. And I'm not naming the prime ministers. Everybody knows Sarabhai passed away unfortunately at the prime of his life. Satish Dhawan stepped in, and of course he had to, for legacy reasons, the headquarter continues to be in Bangalore. Now who knows Satish Dhawan more? Incidentally, he belonged to Jammu and Kashmir, which many of the friends here may not be aware. Nevertheless, that is besides the point. What I'm trying to say is, need not share these facts just to impose ourselves. Let's actually talk about the facts and figures. Now, when you say what is new, and as it was tweeted, the new is the budget itself. I'm going to come to the funding as a whole, but if you see only the government budget, if you see the space budget alone, there is a 142% increase in the last 9 years. The budget of Department of Space in 2013-14 was 5,168 crore and 96 lakh. You can check, verify. The budget in 2023-24 for Department of Space is 12 crore, 5,043 crore, 91 lakh, nearly 13,000 crore, almost 3 times increase. Now for the friends who were generalizing, saying what is the science budget, I can give you individually. Overall, if you see all the science departments, the total budget in 2013-14 was 21,025 crore. This year, it is 57,303 crore and 69 lakh. I'm not going to the other departments of science because, for example, even in atomic energy, somebody was referring to atomic energy. It was 7,561 crore in 2013-14, and it is now up 3 times, 25,078 crore and 49. If you go for science and the Department of Science and Technology, it was 7,000 crore in 2013-14. To be precise, 7,051 crore, 74 lakh. Somebody can take down these figures and verify them. In 2023-24, it is more than twice, 16,361 crore and 41 lakh. Now, what more in funding? Our friend who claimed to be a scientist was bemoaning this. What earlier governments did not do and what this government has done. What he was trying to suggest is that we should make it more liberal for funding. Maybe he has not gone through because that day there was so much of din. Unfortunately, discussion could not happen when I brought in the National Research Foundation bill over here, the Anusandhan bill. I wish you were there, we could deliberate on that.
They were not interested.
That has precisely addressed what Honorable Member Mr. Pathak was mentioning, which could not be addressed by the earlier government successively in 75 years. has been addressed now. I'm not going to name who's the Prime Minister. Anusandhan National Research Foundation envisages almost 80% of funding from non-government sources. It was important for India, ladies and gentlemen, honorable members, honorable chairman, sir, because if we have to grow globally, we have to live up to global parameters, we have to be ready for global challenges, and we have to beat them in the global strategies. America already had a foundation. I'm sure he must be aware, claiming that he is scientist from abroad. The National Research Society. Some of the European countries had, like Germany. Why didn't we have? Why did we have to wait 14 prime ministers? Why we waited for 14 prime ministers? Who will answer this? And this is all based on facts and figures. You can check it. When I left, we were talking about some statistical figures. As I promised in the beginning, I shall talk only science in science and not referring to what happened under which Prime Minister, and let the House decide. So picking up from my last observation, there is a 142.68% increase in the space budget between 2013-14 and 2023-24. If in 2013-2014 it was 5,168 crore and 96 lakh, this year it was 12,543.91 crore. I agree with what was being said, that there was activity happening earlier also, and private participation having earlier also. But as I said, the figure was so dismal. Only 4 space startups in 2014. Today we have 150. And that has been possible because a new arrangement was set up. An interface was set up which is known as InSpace, which facilitates the engagement of industry. And it is headed by a non-government person, a person from the corporate sector, who is presently heading. At the same time, a PSU was also set in, called NSIL, New Space India Limited, in order to engage in collaborations. And this is what has given the outcomes, a multiple or a many-fold investment. So there is a huge synergy now between research, academia, startups and industry. And in certain ways and in certain projects, industry has quite a meaty contribution. Then I was referring to Anusandhan, which has just come in, and that is where I had to stop. Out of the 50,000 crore budget that has been envisaged for 5 years in Anusandhan National Research Foundation, you will be glad to know as much as 36,000 crore, almost 70%, is going to come from non-government sources. And this has happened only 6 months back. I don't have to say who was the Prime Minister. And this will pave the way for a greater involvement of the industry, because I personally also believe the time is gone when there used to be a demarcation for private and public sectors. And if we have to grow further from where we are, and as the Honorable Prime Minister keeps reiterating, the Amrit Kal at the end of 2047, and if we have to be a global player and decide a global leadership for us, we have to meet the global challenges, live up to the global parameters, and have to have the global strategies. Now, this National Research Foundation was a concept being practiced in US and also some of the European countries. Why had we to wait for 6 decades, and who all were the prime ministers in between? I leave it at that. Now, as far as the foreign engagement is concerned, or the other, It was said that the satellites were being launched earlier also. Yes, I am not denying what is true. I am only adding to the half-truth said. The total number of foreign satellites, because this process, yes, it first happened in 1990, till date is 424. Now what I am trying to say, the next sentence is interesting. Out of 424 satellites launched since 1990s, as many as 389, more than 90% launched in the last 9 years. Which was the government, who was the Prime Minister? We have so far earned 174 million US dollars from the launching of the foreign satellites. Out of these 174 million US dollars, as much as $157 million have been earned only in the last 9 years. Which was the government, who was the ruler, that I don't have to spell out. The figures speak for themselves. Out of the European satellites launched so far in the last nearly 30 years, or more than that, the total revenue generated is 256 million euros. Out of which, interestingly, out of 256 million euros, 223, almost 90%, earned in the last 9 years. Which means the scale has gone up, the speed has gone up, and therefore there is, as I said, a huge jump that has happened. Now, I think credit should be given to our scientists and the kind of patronage, as I said in the beginning, and was very well being also put out by Honorable Jairamji. We had scientists like Sarabhai, brilliant scientists, Homi Baba, another brilliant scientist. Incidentally, he came to India for a vacation or a holiday, and the war broke out. He couldn't go back. By that time, the independence was in the offing. Then he stayed back. But nevertheless, the point is that we had to wait all these years for so many things to happen which could have happened earlier. I'm sure somebody would analyze why this couldn't have happened earlier. If we had the human resource, what was lacking? And what did not happen has happened. And what could have happened, why didn't it happen? Now even, and of course, the acumen was so much, and I'm saying so also because the people should know and appreciate. Our Chandrayaan has cost us just 600 crore. Whereas the simultaneous lunar mission, which did not prove to be successful, cost us 16,000 crore. So our scientists working in huge financial constraint admirably made up for that by investing cerebral assets. So we might be lacking in financial assets. So what we were doing, we moved out, took about 20 circles around the earth, used the gravitational force. It was like driving a car in a neutral gear in order to save the fuel. Then we immediately trajected out, went into the lunar orbit, spent about 40 circles around the moon. It took us about 30-40 days, quite in contrast to the Russian mission that happened simultaneously. But we saved on it. So in the process, I think I have to compliment the scientific community of India. They have given the world the concept of cost-effective space missions by producing missions which are not even 1/10 of the cost of the other missions. Our Aditya mission, which was very rightly applauded by Honorable Jairamji and others, has cost us just about 380 crore. So what I'm trying to say is, but which would also, I think, on the other side, give us an idea that if we did not have the constraints that the scientists were confronted with, they could have gone much higher. And that is what has been sought to be provided in the last few years. It's not giving credit to anybody or taking credit to anybody. The processes were there, but they have been sought to be given a new global outlook. Now, if you go only by the figures, I think the record of sending up 104 satellites, the world record, was set up in February 15th, 2017. I don't have to say which was the government. The first GSLV Mark III was sent up on 5th June 2017. Record number of foreign satellites in single go, 31. 31 satellites, out of which 28 were foreign, were sent up on 12th June 2018. And in 2017, 5th of May, a South Asian satellite, we sometimes popularly described as SARC satellite, which is catering to all kinds of inputs to the neighboring countries, including Bhutan, Nepal, Bangladesh. Unfortunately, Pakistan chose to remain out of it to its own disadvantage. So we are now in a position also to provide inputs and useful information to the neighboring countries, very much in the spirit of Atmanirbhar Bharat and also in the same spirit of the vaccine Maitri, a country which hardly had the concept of protective healthcare. Even if we fell sick, we leave it to God. If you get well, it is mother's blessing. If you don't get well, it is Pishle Janam ka karma. Because of our, maybe also partly because of our socio-economic constraints. Even the concept of healthcare was not socially commanding that kind of, or culturally commanding that kind of priority. That country today has become a leader in protective healthcare by providing first ever DNA vaccine and gifting it to the world. So in the same spirit, the space technology now also being provided for the benefit of the other countries. The other part of it is, which has very conspicuously happened in the last 8-9 years, is that we have not confined ourselves only to the launching of rockets. Rockets catch nations' fancy, as they did. The entire nation was glued to the screen when this landing happened, and that again also because the gates had been opened up. The whole country took it as their own mission. Earlier on, what happened? You had a launching in the remote corner of a newspaper column. You would see a single column news, Sriharikota. You could not make out even where the Sriharikota was located. Now we are getting tourists there. We are getting visitors there. We are getting boys and girls. We had 10,000 spectators to watch Aditya launch in comparison to just 10 of the team members we used to have in 2014. And from all sections of society. So if we have to move on, as I said, in a synergized manner, we have to involve. This has to be whole of government plus whole of nation effort. And that is precisely has happened now, which has led to the generation of cumulative, collective human resource as well as knowledge resource. The other part is, as I was mentioning, the late 9 years, we have not only confined ourselves to the launching of rockets. Space technology today is being applied virtually in every sectoral development projects, or every sector. And I have no hesitation to say that space technology has entered every Indian household. Some of us may not realize that it has already happened. Floods and disasters, of course, we are ahead of others. Somebody other day said, what would be the benefit of spending 600 crore on Chandrayaan? Many of us don't realize the amount that has been saved by averting disasters through space technology is much, much more than the amount spent on Chandrayaan. So in the age of figures, statistics and evidence, I can't say I am saying so, hence I am true, or anybody else says so. And it's also gone are the days when I would say I'm more experienced and wiser than you, or I'm more grey-haired. Today...
Sir, I don't see grey hair.
Sorry, sir.
I see grey material, but grey hair is not visible.
Sir, all kinds of colors are available in the market today. Sir, with you, person like you, inspiring chairman, I think it motivates everybody to use the kind of color he or she wants.
For grey hair, you can look to Jairam Ramesh. Complete grey hair.
I can share some with him. Emulated in the rest of the world also is our Swamittva program, which, as I said, this is working through whole of government. We have the rural development department in that, the revenue. This is mapping of the land, mapping of the farms, using space technology and drones, which brings in more of transparency, less of corruption. You don't have to make rounds of the revenue officer. You can yourself access it. And I think out of nearly 6 lakh inhabited panchayats, almost 3 lakhs or so are completed through this program. The railway tracks laying and the unmanned railway crossings. Telemedicine, of course, I don't have to mention. Agriculture sector. Virtually in every sphere of life and every sphere of sectoral development, we have the space technology now. Now, I think time has come, as I agree with most of the members who very optimistically concluded it. The measure of our success is always relative. The Einstein theory has survived on that. So what is important is, as was being mentioned by someone, that US landed a human being in 1969. True. If you recall, and those who are the keen watchers would remember, Neil Armstrong landed there, took a stroll. BBC captured a film. That was the main news agency those days. And he made a famous statement which has gone down in the history. He said, one small step for man, giant step for mankind. He said so, no doubt. But he could notice the presence of water, even though he had a stroll around. It was our Chandrayaan, which later on went and got the evidence of the water molecules, the H2O, which could give a direct or an indirect indication of the possibility of human habitat. और सभापति महोदय जो कहानियां हम सुना करते थे तस्वुर में कि चांद पर क्या होता होगा, लोग बसते हैं कि नहीं बसते, बसते तो कैसे है, वहां पे परियां नाचती होंगी, उन पहेलियों का वैज्ञानिक उत्तर ढूंढने की प्रेरणा अगर किसी ने दी तो हमारे चंद्रयान ने दी. And I think also one of the best examples of combining our traditional knowledge, which is our asset, with the most modern cutting-edge technology. विमान का नाम चंद्रयान, जहां वो पहुंचा वो शिव शक्ति, लेकिन जो उसकी इनपुट्स आ रही हैं हमसे भी कहीं पहले नासा उपलब्ध करवा रहा है, because that's a virgin area, virgin territory. Nobody had ever ventured there, could have. So even those agencies we started much before us. Now that takes us to the other inference. We are today at par as far as science, technology, innovation capabilities are concerned with any other country of the world. In some spheres, we have even moved one step ahead. And again, to give you an evidence example, I'm not talking which government. Television happened in USA in 1950s. All the London members of the upper house know that in 1960, the famous presidential election was finally determined by the outcome of a TV debate between John Kennedy and Richard Nixon, which turned the tables against Nixon. We in India did not have a clue about what is all this about. What is TV? What is debate? How does it happen? We saw TV for the first time sometime close to 1970, that to a weekly Chitrahar. Which government, which head of government, I'm not saying. Today, even computer came 15 years later. Today, quantum technology, the latest cutting-edge technology. We are among 5 or 6 countries in the world which are into it. We are among the first who have mission quantum technology launched just 6 months back, under whom I need not say. And we are at the same level, R&D level, because in scientific projects we have different levels. We have not yet gone into application level, but if they are in the research and development, we too. Otherwise, what would happen? Television would have become popular in America. They would have indulged in TV debates for elections. And then we would suddenly waken up to something called this new discovery. Similarly, in space technology, as has been said, we are already among the first 2 or 3. Now comes the space economy. True, our space economy is not something that we can boast of. But I do have the courage to say that this is a cumulative effect of the last 60, 70 years since we have started. Today, we are only 8 billion space economy. I am very humbly, modestly admitting it. But our projection for 2040 is 40 billion. So if since 1960s, as was being said, till 2000, second decade or third decade, we reach 8 billion. In the next 15 years, we'll reach 40 billion. But the most interesting part is that only a few days back, I think hardly a week back, we had a famous report called ADL report, one of the international reports, the Arthur D. Little report. They keep making such projections. The report says that India could go up to not 40 but $100 billion economy by 2040. In other words, my own projection about myself is lesser than what the others are thinking about me. Which means the world today has recognized the quantum jump that India has undertaken, the fast track in which he is moving. Now our startups, as was being mentioned by some other members, in 2014 we were only 350 to 400 startups. Which government? All members are learned enough. In 2016, Stand Up India, Start Up India policy was launched from the ramparts of Red Fort, announcement made in the Independence Day address by the Prime Minister. Within a few years today, Honorable Chairman, sir, we are 1,25,000 startups. More than 110 unicorns. And what I'm not saying, the ruling party not saying, the Treasury bench is not saying, the world is saying, India has suddenly jumped up to the 3rd position in startup ecosystem in the world. Now, if it has happened now, how can we help it? But if it has happened now, something must have been contributed to make this happen. Some enabling milieu might have been created, some enabling provisions might have been created. Similarly, in Global Innovation Index, again, not mine, not yours, internationally determined parameter and recognized. In 2013-14, we were 81 position. Today, we have jumped 41 positions and we are at number 40. Now, is this not a matter of pride for each one of us? And when we talk of space economy, we can foresee that space economy is going to be a major contributor in India's future economy as well. And we have jumped.
1 second. Sorry. Honorable members, I have got an input from some members in writing. They say, many of us feel it is so cold. One thing is very good. The Secretary General will take steps to moderate the temperature. And another significant facet, we are not generating heat. We are in full collaboration. The Honorable Minister must have been a very serious student of Shakespeare. He, in his speech, has taken to Julius Caesar, and our Jairam Ramesh has not interrupted him. Please go ahead. Temperature.
It's the Aditya is going to study this part also. The thermal aspects, the magnetic aspects, and the solar aspects emanating from the sun. How effectively could the possible harmful effects be avoided, and to what extent this could be put to advantage for those living on planet Earth. So coming back, Global Innovation Index and International Index, we have come up 41 positions in 9 years. Overall space economy is going to be an important part of it. We are today 5th. And I think in many quarters, more celebration is done when it is said that we have overtaken United Kingdom. So just as we have overtaken United Kingdom, some people also feel rejoiced that we are now launching US satellites. What I'm trying to say is that the now world looks up to us. Gone are the days when India used to be led by others. Today, the world is ready to be led by India under Prime Minister Modi. Biotechnology. Now, how can I say, unless the Prime Minister changes, I cannot help it. You have to accept it. Now, biotechnology. We were only 50 startups in 2014. 50. We could not even say this very respectfully. 50. With the new provisions brought in, now we are going to have biomanufacturing policy also. It has gone up today to 6,000. Our bioeconomy was $10 billion in 2014, 13-14. Today it has gone up 8 times to $80 billion. So in 70 years or 65 years, we reached 10 billion. In 9 years, we reached 80 billion. So 8 times increase in 8 years or 9 years. For a country which has a huge bio resource, sir. We have a wide range of Himalayas, 3-4 states in the lap of Himalayas, Arunachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Himachal, Jammu Kashmir, I don't have to need all. We have 7,500 kilometer long coastal area, the longest in the world, beginning from Odisha up to the Maharashtra. The seabed full of minerals, metals, and biodiversities, and the biosources. And now we have also launched Samundaryaan under the Ministry of Earth Sciences to explore that wealth. And I'm sure, sir, given your kind of penchant and humor, you would appreciate, we are the only country which has an ocean named us, Indian Ocean. The other day I was telling some friends from Australia, you come from a place which is a country, which is an island, which is a continent, Australia. But the ocean is not known as the Australian Ocean. Because my forefathers must have foreseen the huge wealth lying inside. और उस अपार संपत्ति को निकालने का काम भी अभी शुरू हुआ पिछले 5 साल में समुद्रयान में. समुद्र तो वहीं था. I'm not. Okay. Yes, yes. ठीक है, भारत ओशन रख लीजिए. Good. Welcome. Good suggestion. Well taken.
I think that is the sense of the House.
No, I think there is a sense of acceptance. I'm glad.
Please continue.
Yes, sir.
Continue. Okay, Honorable Minister, continue.
So these exclusive resources which will contribute to our economy and which are primarily scientifically driven, Aroma mission has happened only in the last 5 years. India has given the world purple revolution, which is known as purple revolution. It's begun from the Himalayan states, now being also emulated by others. Cultivation and production of aroma products, lavender products, and giving competition to some of the imported products, including their perfumes, etc., confectionery. So all this has not only given a sense of science, a sense of esteem to science and scientists, this has also given a sense of esteem to the common citizen of India. Now somebody was saying, what is done for the scientists to come back and what has happened to the education? Though this discussion is not per se related to education, but of course, scientists have to undergo some kind of an education. We had an education policy. I have, at the risk of sounding unorthodox, Chairman, sir, I would say, we had education policy which was unable to give us the best of the merit as far as scientists are concerned. And that anomaly is sought to be created through National Education Policy 2020. No, I'll tell you, false. I'll tell you how it is. No, the professor will understand better. If I did class 12, my parents wanted me to be a doctor. I didn't manage it to medical college. What do I do? What do? I do graduation. Which subject? Biology or botany? I can't go to any other subject. Professor knows it better. Then after graduation, what do? Yeah, that's what I'm coming to. I go for civil service exam. If I make it good, if I don't, then what do? I go for MSc. Again, same subjects. Botany, zoology. No, I can't go to economics. It is the national, and finally, you either do PhD, become scientist or whatever. So it was happening by default. Now you have given credential to aptitude, to talent, to the inherent capacity. You have exit entry provision. You can change your subjects after class 12 if you are not, you are no longer prisoner of the aspiration. You can combine science with economics.
Honorable Minister.
I'm not yielding. I'm not yielding. Please go through the NEP 2020 document, then we'll have a debate. You have not gone through that. After class 12, I can change my medical subjects, I go over to economics. Was it not there? Why was it not there before? So I can, look here. No. You please go through the draft, then we'll go. We'll come to it. Secondly, and this National Education Policy 2020, this National Education Policy 2020 has happened in 2020. The name indicates. The name aptitudes, science capabilities and science human resource at multiple levels. The level of funding, level of encouraging, level of also the exercising of choice and preferences. And therefore, I can go on and on, but I would finally just conclude by saying, because I have taken more than the time required, that it is a moment to celebrate. And I think if there's anything otherwise that should be in anybody's mind. Absolutely. Yes. And those who facilitate them. No. If you are serving a class, if a scientist is working 24 hours and like a good Samaritan you offer him a cup of tea, do I not appreciate you? Yes, that's what we are doing. We are offering them funds when they require it. We are offering them environment when they require it. We are offering them freedom when they require it. We are offering them synergy when we require it. And we have liberated them from those self-imposed shackles. We have liberated them from this. And this has happened in the last 9 years. And the whole world. Today, sir, just to conclude. As I said, I am not saying, Treasury not saying, during Prime Minister's US visit. Now, I can't help it. It's been there in public domain. US solicited that our astronauts should be accompanying to the International Space Station. That means they have recognized the worth of our astronauts. Now, what do? If the opposition members have a problem with that, it's not You are my well-wisher, T. Sabaji, or otherwise? I know.
It says Parliamentary Affairs Minister. He is Science and Technology Minister.
No,
Please.
I am concluding. No, sir, I'll conclude.
Friends,
What?
friends, we are looking at all situations. Several small and minor things have to be done. No effort will be spared. I have requested the members and leaders to make suggestions to me also. And I had an occasion to get their inputs also. We need only some breathing. We are having
I won't take long. The Americans today solicit that our astronauts should be accompanying them to the International Space Station. That means they recognize our capability. The Americans today suggest that we should be part of their semiconductor consortium. That means they think we have some value addition to do with them. The Americans today want us to be part of the Artemis Agreement. So I think without any pride or prejudice, regardless of which side we are sitting, this is something to celebrate. The Chandrayaan was a moment of glory for India, and I don't think anybody can deny that. And now, of course, next, as Jairamji said, now we will be going ahead with Gaganyaan. And just to share a small bit of information, we got delayed because of the COVID and the supply chain problems. We would be shortly sending the first trial mission, which will be non-human, just go quite a few miles, follow the eternity. Then the second human mission will again be non-human, but it will mimic a human mission. It will be a robo mission with a female robo scientist, Vayomitra, maybe possibly by the beginning of next year. And finally, as was being said by the honorable member, in 2024, Gaganyaan, the first human being, though our human being had been there, now again you would say, Rakesh Sharma went there and he told Mrs. Gandhi, Sare jahan se acha. वो भी तक बचता है. But we conveniently forget that was Soviet mission. A total indigenous mission from nut bolt is now in the offing. And that is why the world today looks up to us and recognizes us as a partner who is equally engageable and maybe a force to reckon with in the times to come. Thank you, Chairman, sir.